Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to our BKFC Reddit Ask Me Anything. We're joined by a friend of mine, a guy from the Reddit himself. You know, he does the poetry. He's a wonderful guy. James Lights Out Lilley. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
Good. I don't know what's up with the technical difficulties. Every time you and I try to do this, there's always difficulty.
Yeah, it's shit, man. But we'll get through it.
At what point do we see you move into the United States? I know you said you want to fight in the United States more. When do we bring you over?
I think that would be a question for my wife who's in the next room, and I don't think she'll give you a good answer.
Has there been any talk, though? I mean, like I said, you're a guy who clearly enjoys coming over here. Like, is there any chance the United States steals you away from Wales and we bring you over here?
I think myself and a couple of my kids would be well up for it, but my wife, she likes where we live. She likes the people here. It'd be hard to get her over. So unless there's a divorce in the future, I think I'm stuck here for a bit.
Well, I certainly don't want you to get divorced, but I do want to get you back over here. I'm a guy who really wants to see you fight. You know, it hasn't happened yet, but I would love to see you fight live.
Yeah, I said this. America has been one of the greatest experiences of my life with the fights. I seem to have a little bit of a fan base over there, so get this win next week, and we can look at the bigger fights. I've told Mr. Feldman, I'm always available. For any of these fights, I'm just waiting for a call. I'm easy to work with. I'll say yes to anything.
I thought there was a chance when I heard that Franco was being removed from the fight. Your name came up, the Palominos came up, Kai's came up. Like there's quite a few names. How happy are you for Ben Bonner though? I know he's a friend of yours. Like how great is that for your buddy that he just won a title?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one for me. Not the fact that I'm chuffed for Ben. We may have been on a collision course in the future. I also, although me and Tony have had back and forth, I also respect and speak to Tony quite a lot. So it was a bit of a weird one for me because I like both guys, but the repercussions for the division are probably what, instead of me being like yeah, I'm like, well, what's going to happen next, But
Sure.
Ben took an opportunity, and this is what I've been trying to tell fighters for years. You just got to stay in the gym, stay ready. You get a phone call and you got to say yes. You can't be like, I'm injured, or I'm not ready. If a chance, I said I was on Lou Fuse's podcast, and he told me the fight happened, and they've got a video. They'll probably release it this week of me getting my phone out and texting Dave straight away saying I'm available, I'm on weight. So I think those opportunities like that don't come along. And look what's happened. He took the chance, and he's interim world champion. Probably going to go on and fight for the world title. It's a great thing to show the younger fighters and people coming through of what happens when you take risks instead of worrying about losing and all that shit. But yeah, chuff for Ben. Hopefully that's a fight I can have in the future.
It is kind of weird. I see it a lot. I hear like, oh, I'll fight anybody anytime. And then someone who is supposed to fight this person goes, hey, look, they offered this guy the fight. He said no. And then I see not the official contract, but I see like the name of this person. And I'm like, this person was just telling me that they'll fight anybody anytime. And it's not true. And I think it's great that some of you guys still stand by that. Anybody, anytime, say the place.
Yeah, for me, I haven't got time on my side anymore. I'm 38, 39 in the winter. So I've matured in my training habits where I'm in the gym all the time now. I love the gym. I used to have like 3 or 4 weeks off between fights, pig out and stuff. But I've been really disciplined with my training. So I never really, the only difference between me in camp and out of camp is I pick my sparring up. But since the turn of the year, one of my friends who's a pro boxer, another guy who's fighting Ben for someone else, have all asked me for help. So I've been in the gym sparring anyway. So there hasn't been much of a difference with me being in camp and out of camp since the last loss. I've been in the gym constantly. So I'm just waiting for a phone call. My visa's good. And my weight's good. I'll probably need 2 weeks, or depending on what weight is at, 2 weeks to cut weight. But I'm good for it, and I think people are more scared of losing than
Sure.
you know actually taking a fight. I think it's the mentality of losing rather than getting hurt. That's the problem.
Okay, so we saw that Connor Tierney really wanted to fight in Birmingham. Andrew was able to make that happen. When do we see a Swansea card?
I don't know if it'll be a Swansea one. We haven't got a big enough arena. There's a little arena, 2,500 people. So I was floating the idea that we could have like a little bit of a fight night there, maybe a Thursday night like they did when I came over to America the first time.
Yeah.
Me, and obviously John Phillips, my friend, is signed now. So maybe have me and him, as he's the main and the co-main, or whatever, and then just have like undercard fighters. So that would work. But if not, I've heard that they're looking to do a show in Wales in the winter, probably in Cardiff, which is 45 minutes up the road, which is bigger arenas.
Sure.
That'd be cool. I'd love that. I went on the. I don't want to talk about on the podcast and stuff.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was on the Fuses podcast, and he said I'm tied with Mick Terrell for the most fights abroad, but technically, I'm from Wales and they haven't done any cards in Wales, so all my fights have been away from home. So although we're classed as UK, none of my fights have been at home. Wembley Arena, that's 4 hours from my house. Milton Keynes, that's 4.5 hours, and Birmingham's 3 hours from my house. So none of them are anywhere close, really.
I thought it was pretty cool that like we got to see. I'm a guy who loves cornering some people. I've been lucky enough to corner Bryce Henry. I cornered Tommy Stridham. I thought it was pretty cool to see Lou Fuse in the corner this weekend. It's fun to see a podcaster get to experience that, and it gives us a brilliant idea of what you guys do.
Yeah, he's he's a great guy, Lou. He's a big supporter of fighters, especially the UK fighters. He's doing what yourself does, where he's chasing a passion for the sport, and it's paying off for him. He's got sponsors now, so he's got a global platform. He's going to shows. He's around fighters all the time. He's living his dream, basically. If you're not going to be a fighter, that's the next best thing you can be, and he's living his dream. And yeah, it's great that he got the opportunity to be in the corner of probably, one of the biggest upsets in BKFC. I don't think anyone would have predicted that outside of Ben's camp when they saw the fight was the 7 days. So what part of history, really.
Okay, so again, I announced that I was interviewing you. You're on, the Reddit. I've done you several times. Someone said that you're overrated. Agree or disagree with that statement?
If it was about my poetry, then probably, yeah, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever highly rated myself. I know BKFC have, and they put me up highly in different rankings, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see what happens next week. Maybe I am overrated, but we touched on it before. I fought two of the best guys at 155. The only two people who've ever won world titles. One of them was a number one pound for pound, and then my other loss was at a higher weight, and we all know all the backstory to that. So, I don't think I'm overrated. Bobby Taylor, everyone was talking about him being one of the pound for pound best fighters before I fought him, saying he's probably the biggest puncher. Adam Pellerano was ranked number 2. Tyler Goodjohn's a world champion who went in with Palomino. I've been in with some good guys,
Sure. That's what I try to tell people. I say, look, this guy, he fights anybody. He only fights the best for the most part. And like I said, Palomino fight, super close fight. A lot of people thought you won. Franco fight, a lot of people thought you won. If it wasn't for the knockdown, you easily won the Franco fight. So like I said, it's not like you've been getting blown out by people. Like I said, you're right there, and you could easily be the world champ yourself.
Yeah, do you watch Marvel films?
Some, yeah.
Doctor Strange, the multiverse. In another universe, James Lilley's world champion. It was that close of a fight. It was like a sliding doors moment. So yeah, I wasn't far away. I said I think the only thing that's kind of tarnished what I've done is of what happened in Marbella, but without trying to make an excuse, there's backstory to that which I have explained before. So I feel like this is an opportunity to start again. It's at a slightly lower weight, so win this weight and then maybe move down to 145, and I can say I've been fighting bigger guys all my time. So I don't know. There's options out there for me.
Okay, I know you flirted. It's never good when a fighter says, "I'm gonna retire." You flirted a little bit, like, I don't know, I'm gonna take some time. I'm glad you didn't come right out and say it, because to me, there's nothing more annoying than a fighter who retires and comes back. And I don't want to throw shade at Danny Christie, but like, when you're like, "Oh, I'm done," and everybody kind of writes it off, and then suddenly you come back. But I mean, like you said, you flirted with different weights, you flirted with retirement. You're not a spring chicken anymore. How many more fights do you have with you? And is this a must win? If you don't win this fight, it's going to be hard to keep wanting to try.
Yeah, the reason I've never come out and said I'm retired is because I'm pretty stubborn. Whereas if I make a decision, that's my decision. So I didn't want to say I'm retired. I've had breaks in between fighting before, but I've always, been in the game. I never want to say I'm retired because I will. That's it for me. Once I'm out, I'm out.
Sure.
So that's why I've never said it. How many more fights? I'd like to get 10 in with the BKFC. This will be my seventh, so that's three more fights. But it all depends on life. As you said, I'm no spring chicken. My kids are getting older, um, and I got to get back in the win column. I want to chase another fight in the US because I love it over there. And there's loads of European cards, so I wouldn't mind fighting in a country I've never been to or something like that. But I don't. I'd say at least two more after this one, possibly three.
How cool is it that you have probably one of you do some fantastic tops. Like I love the tops. Like I said, I got it signed by you. But yeah, like you really go all out for your fight gear. I think it's great, and you give the fans a chance to purchase them, which I love too.
Yeah, it's I've seen a couple of like fight T-shirts, and I've watched boxing since a young age, so I've always like kept an eye on what they wear to the ring, and I teamed up with King's Fightwear for I think it was four fights for T-shirts, and I like the name across it there, so it gives you more room for the sponsors. But yeah, he does some good T-shirts. I tell him what colours I'm going for my shorts. Um, I'm pretty good at picking short colours and t-shirt colours, so it's just finding the right pattern. And yeah, it's great then that to see my kids have all got t-shirts. A couple of kids on Swans who got them, so it's great when you see them on the street they wearing them.
Okay, so you talked about this next fight. I believe is at a catch weight. Um, I mean, Suarez, he has one fight with the BKFC. I think he's got
Yeah,
one, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, clearly you should be the favorite going into this. Do you see yourself? Clearly, you see yourself better in every aspect of this fight coming up, right? You don't see him being better than you at any aspect of this upcoming fight, do you?
No, it's a weird one because I was booked in to fight a Russian kid.
I
Sorry, he's
can't
not
say
from
his
Russia.
name. Yeah,
No, the guy, he's from Kyrgyzstan, is it, or something? Um, and he'd had three bare knuckle fights in different organisation, unbeaten. So it was a different type of fight. And then he had visa issues. And I saw Suarez was training and asking for a fight on Instagram. So I said, "Oh, what about Suarez? I know he's had one fight." And if you just look at his BKFC record, he's had one win, one fight, one loss. But he's had like three Kings of the Street fights. He's had pro
sure.
MMA. He's had pro boxing. So he's a dangerous fighter. A lot of these guys who are involved in bare knuckle have done some other sports before. So if you look at just the bare knuckle record, you're going to say, "Oh, I'm the more experienced." But he's had all these other fights. I think I am better than him. But again, I don't feel I'm in a position to ask for fights and say I want this guy or I want this guy. I'll just take what I can get, and that was the fight that was offered, and I've had to drop more weight to make the fight. How much I need the fight and the win, but yeah, I'm hoping this is going to be a statement win to get myself back in there.
What's the deal? You've been really been slacking with the poetry. Is it lacking motivation? You just don't have time? Like, why haven't we seen nearly as many poetry posts?
um, it's weird because when I'm in fight camp, my mind's like 100 miles an hour, so I find it hard to focus because I'm always thinking about training and eating, and then like I'll have a podcast with someone. So we've done a couple of the poetry nights, but my writing seems to slow down when I'm in fight camp. I'm working on like I'm trying to write a story, like a novel. I've been working on something for the last few months, so that's taking up my time, and work's busy, and it's finding time and space. I find when I'm home, that's my time with the kids and the wife, because I work away sometimes. I'm in the gym twice a day, so it's finding the space to write. And I don't I respect poetry and writing too much to just be like, oh, I'll just jot this out and see what happens. I need time and space, and we don't seem to have it in fight camp. Don't seem to have it at all anymore, to be honest, with the kids and that. But it's just one of those.
Okay, are you a Swansea football team? Is that your team?
I'm from Swansea, and I do like this Swansea, but I'm a Liverpool supporter.
Okay, so I asked Connor Tierney this, but on Liverpool, do you have any players that you think would make? I mean, we're seeing more crossover. Is there anybody on the Liverpool team you think would make a good bare knuckle fighter?
Uh, yeah, there's a few of them. They got McAllister, who's Argentinian, and Diaz, who's Colombian. I think they got that fiery, like South American. You know, they're like fighters when they're playing football. They're crunching into tackles. They've got that grit in them. So I think that the South American players, the team would make good fighters because they've got that grit and determination. They're always putting their bodies on the line. So yeah, they could probably do it.
Okay, do you? I have nothing else. Is there any message for the fans or anything? Sponsor shout outs, anything you'd like to get out there before we call it a night?
For all those saying I'm overrated, tune in next week because I think we're going to have a surprise and you're going to see the best of me again. I'm not going to go through all my sponsors. I've got quite a long list, but without them, I wouldn't be here. Fight camps are expensive with medicals, even healthy food's expensive now. It's
Sure.
crazy. And I want to thank my team, Josh, Di, and James. They've pulled me through this camp with a bit of self doubt, really. Bad sparring sessions sometimes, put me down a little bit, but they've been great. They've pulled me through this. They've always been there when I need to train. Um, and she won't see this because she doesn't watch me. But my wife and my kids, they especially this last week where it's getting tight and feeling the pinch of the weight cut. I've been not myself. I've been a bit grumpy, so they probably deserve as much credit as anyone else, really.
All right. Well, I don't think you're overrated. You're one of my favorite fighters. Not even my favorite like UK fighters. You're one of my favorite, like absolutely on the roster. So thank you so much, and I look forward to watching your fight. And we'll chat again after your win.
Yes, definitely. I'll get you another T-shirt.
I appreciate it. Thanks, mate. Thanks.
Nice job, brother. Thank you.